Chief Daniel, a billionaire oil magnate whose shoes cost more than a surgeon's salary, never imagined he would be kneeling on broken glass. Not just kneeling, begging. He was outside the chaotic, peeling blue walls of the Mushin General Hospital. The air smelt of antiseptic, gutter water, stale urine, and a thick human despair that clung to the humid morning. His $50,000 bespoke suit, the one he'd worn just hours ago for the naming ceremony, was stained with filth and, he dimly registered, his own blood. His palms, which had only ever held solid gold pens and the keys to his G-Wagon, were pressed flat on the grimy pavement. He ignored the bottle caps and sharp pebbles digging into his flesh. "Grace, please," he cried, his voice cracking, a sound so alien to a man who commanded boardrooms and silenced ministers with a single phone call that it shocked even him. "Please, just come to the car. I'll buy you a hospital. I'll buy this hospital. The baby, it spoke." He couldn't believe the words coming out of his own mouth. He sounded like a madman. Grace Johnson stood barefoot on the hospital ramp. She was 26, but she felt 90. The hospital gown she wore was thin, torn at the shoulder, a grim souvenir from giving birth in a dark corridor not 2 hours ago. Her feet were caked in mud and blood. She was numb, hollowed out by a pain so profound that it had burned past grief and left only a cold, quiet void. She clutched a tiny wailing bundle wrapped in a faded, impossibly thin hospital cloth. The baby, who had not yet been named, suddenly stopped crying. He opened his eyes. They were not the unfocused eyes of a newborn. They were ancient, clear, and sharp. He looked directly at the billionaire kneeling in the dirt, and in a voice that silenced the nearby bus park, a voice that stopped the blaring horn of the downfall buses and the shouting of the agberos, the newborn baby spoke. "Only the woman you slapped can carry me. Only her, or I stop breathing." Chief Daniel's face turned white. The slap had only happened 3 hours ago in his Lekki mansion, in front of 500 of Lagos's most powerful and influential people. The slap was meant to be the end of Grace. Instead, it was the beginning of his own. To understand how a man who owned half of Banana Island came to beg a homeless woman in Mushin, you must understand the suffering that came first. You must understand the slow, meticulous, and brutal spiral of humiliation designed to erase her, one painful piece at a time. It started 6 months ago on a Tuesday afternoon. The air in the Lekki Phase 1 mansion was cool and smelled of expensive diffusers, lemongrass, and oud. The only sounds were the distant insulated hum of the 100 kVA generator and the clinking of silver. Grace, 5 years into her private relationship with Daniel and 3 months pregnant with his child, was arranging white lilies in the vast marble entryway. She felt a quiet pride in this home, a home Daniel had always called ours in the quiet of the night. She hummed, gently touching her stomach, where the first secret flutters of life had begun. The only witness was the head maid, Bola, who was quietly polishing a silver statue, her face set in a look of professional neutrality. The polished iron gates opened, the hydraulic hiss barely audible. A black G-Wagon, identical to Daniel's but for the license plate, purred onto the interlocking stones. Jessica Michael stepped out. She was not a person. She was an Instagram filter come to life. Her dress was tight, her heels were high, and her phone was already in her hand, recording. She entered with 5 matching Louis Vuitton suitcases, not waiting for the driver, who scurried behind her. She scanned the room, dismissed the lilies, and landed on Grace. "So this is the village champion he's been hiding," Jessica whispered to Bola, but it was a stage whisper designed to carry. She wrinkled her nose, a perfect surgically enhanced nose. She looks like she smells of palm oil and desperation. Jessica walked past Grace, dragging one of her suitcases across the spotless marble. The sound was like a scream. "Move, dear," she said, not looking at Grace, her eyes on the grand staircase. "You are in my light." She turned to Bola, her voice dripping with command. I'll be in the master bedroom, have my bag sent up, and tell the cook I don't eat local food. I'm allergic to poverty and spice and anything that is not flown in from Dubai. Grace, holding her small, secret pregnancy bump, said nothing. Her hand, holding a lily, was frozen in midair. Are you deaf? Jessica snapped at Bola, who had frozen. The master bedroom, now, and get me some champagne, the good kind, not this local rubbish. Grace's throat closed. The smell of Jessica's perfume, a heavy, suffocating oud, felt like it was choking her, drowning the gentle scent of lilies. She wanted to say, this is my home. I am the woman of this house. The master bedroom is my room. But the words wouldn't come. Daniel had always warned her, be discreet, my love. Don't cause a scene. My enemies are watching, no. She thought he was protecting their love. She realized in that moment he was just hiding her. This woman, Jessica, was not discreet. She was a hurricane. The maid, Bola, a woman in her 40s, flinched. She looked at Grace with a flash of genuine pity, then quickly bowed her head, her eyes calculating. Yes, madam, she mumbled to Jessica. Bola needed this job. Her son's school fees at Covenant University depended on it. She picked up the heaviest suitcase, refusing to make eye contact with Grace. She was the first person to watch Grace be humiliated and do nothing. Her silence was the first betrayal. Grace retreated to the kitchen, her hands trembling. The house suddenly felt cold, alien. The scent of lilies was gone, replaced by Jessica's suffocating perfume, which seemed to have instantly permeated every room. She heard Jessica's high-pitched laughter from the top of the stairs, followed by a loud, "This wallpaper is disgusting. It has to go." She was already a ghost in her own home. A week later, the 1 p.m. sun was hot, shimmering over the turquoise pool. Grace was looking for her favorite silk robe, a gift from Daniel from their trip to Dubai 2 years ago. It was a soft, blush pink, and it was the only thing that still felt like hers, a tangible link to the man she loved. She heard a voice from the pool deck. Jessica was there, live streaming on her brand new gold-plated iPhone 15, the one Daniel had clearly just bought her. The house helps, Bola and Mary, were watching from the kitchen window, their hands in the sink, pretending to wash plates. Grace walked outside, her bare feet padding on the hot tiles. Jessica was wearing her robe. It was unmistakable. The soft pink silk, the one Grace loved, was stretched tight across Jessica's body, one open over a tiny bikini.
Hey babies, hey my loves, Jessica preened for her 500,000 followers. Just relaxing at the mansion. My man treats me so good. He says I'm the only queen in his castle. Jessica, Grace said, her voice quiet but firm, shaking despite her efforts. That's mine. Jessica turned, lowering her phone but not ending the stream. She smiled, a slow, cruel smile. Is it? She plucked at the silk. It looked like something the maid would wash with. It's probably a fake from Dubai market. Honestly, Grace, your taste is so basic. I'm sure Chief can buy you another one, if he remembers you, that is. Please, just take it off. It was a gift. Jessica laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. Are you mad? I'm live. Don't embarrass yourself. She turned back to her phone. Sorry, guys, one of the house helps is disturbing me. She's probably jealous. She winked. Anyway, as I was saying, I'm redecorating this whole house. This awful, tacky furniture has got to go. Grace stood there, rooted. The comments on the live stream flashed by, hundreds of them, visible even from where she stood. Drag her, queen! Put the help in her place! She's just jealous of your man! Slay, Jessica! She was being humiliated, not just by Jessica, but by 500,000 strangers. Her chest felt like Lagos traffic, everything jammed. She couldn't breathe. The robe, her last piece of comfort, now felt like a shroud. In the kitchen, Mary, the younger maid, whispered, "This is wicked though. That robe was Madame Grace's favorite, the real one from Dubai. I remember when Oga gave it to her." Bola shushed her eyes dark and frantic. "Do you want to lose your job? Oga is not on her side. Look away, it is not our business." They both turned back to the sink, their backs to the pool, their silence another break in Grace's prison. Grace backed away, her bare feet silent on the hot tiles. The shame burned hotter than the sun. That night, she waited for Daniel for hours. When his G-Wagon finally arrived at 11 p.m., its engine a low growl, she ran to him before he even caught the engine. "Daniel, thank God you're home. That girl, Jessica, she stole my robe, my Dubai robe. She's trying to replace me." The mansion entrance, the massive chandelier rained cold white light down on the marble floor. Daniel still in his suit, his face tired and shadowed. Jessica was watching from the top of the winding staircase, a shadow in the dim light, her arms crossed. She was perfectly positioned, a queen on her throne. Grace stood there, her heart pounding, finally ready to fight for her home. "Daniel, she's disrespecting me. She's posting videos in my clothes. She's calling me a house help to her followers. You have to tell her to leave. It's me or her." The ultimatum left her mouth before she could stop it. Daniel held up a hand. He didn't even look at her. He was loosening his tie. "Grace, I have a headache. I am tired of your complaining. I just closed a $500 million deal." "But Daniel, Jessica is my PA. Be nice to her. She's important for business," he sighed, as if she was the burden. "And she is pregnant." Grace's world stopped. The sound in the hall vanished. The chandelier, the marble, Daniel's face, it all blurred. "Pregnant?" "Yes," he said, walking past her. He started climbing the stairs towards Jessica. Jessica put her hand on her own perfectly flat stomach and smiled, a cold, triumphant, venomous smile down at Grace. It was a lie. Grace knew, with a sudden chilling certainty, it was a lie, but Daniel believed it. Jessica was the only witness. Her victory was silent and absolute. She wrapped her arms around Daniel and led him into the master bedroom. The click of the door shutting echoed in the massive empty hall. It was the sound of her life ending. The next morning, Bola and Mary came to her room. They wouldn't meet her eyes. "Oga say make we move your things, madam." They moved her, but not to the spacious, well-appointed guest room. Under Jessica's new orders, they moved her to the small, damp room in the boys' quarters, next to the driver's. The humiliation was complete. She had gone from mistress of the house to a servant in one day. The constant thumping fumes from the generator outside her new window made her pregnancy nausea a living, breathing hell. The BQ. The room was small and smelled of generator fumes, damp and mildew. A single buzzing bulb lit the space. Time, 8 p.m. Jessica was in the main house, hosting a small party for her new influencer friends. Grace could hear the music and high-pitched laughter. Technology. Jessica was posting Instagram stories from the party, showing off her new home and her pregnancy bump, which was just a pillow. Witnesses, the house staff. Protagonist, Grace, now 4 months pregnant, weak from constant morning sickness and starving. Grace was starving. She hadn't eaten since a small piece of bread that morning. She had been banished from the main kitchen by Jessica, who claimed Grace's bad energy was upsetting her. The baby was kicking, a small frantic protest, as if in hunger. The cook, Mrs. Ade, knocked on her door. She was holding a small, chipped plastic plate. On it was a scoop of watery stew and 2 small, hard pieces of eba. "Madam Jessica approved this for you," the cook said, her voice low, her eyes fixed on the floor. She said you are now on a staff budget, and that pregnant women don't need to eat too much, or they will get fat and ugly, and no man will want them." Grace stared at the plate. Her stomach grumbled audibly. A betrayal. Tears burned, but she swallowed them like bitter medicine.
This was a calculated cruelty. It wasn't about the food. It was about status. She was now less than a servant. She was a pariah. She took the plate. "Thank you, Mrs. Ade," she whispered. Her voice was hoarse. She sat on the edge of the thin mattress and ate the cold food, her baby kicking as if in protest. Each swallow felt like swallowing stones. Mrs. Ade, the cook, lingered at the door. My pikin, my own daughter is pregnant in Ibadan. I don't know how person fit be like this. This is not God, this is witch." But she couldn't stay. She heard Jessica call her name from the big house. "Mrs. Ade, more champagne, and where are the prawn spring rolls?" The cook flinched and rushed away, her apron flapping. Grace sat alone in the dark room. The thumping bass from the party vibrated through the thin wall, mocking her. She checked her phone. No messages from Daniel. No bank alerts. He had cut her off completely. She was his prisoner, fed on scraps. Another piece of her dignity was gone, swallowed with the cold eba. A bright, upscale Lekki pharmacy. The air conditioning was a sharp contrast to the 34 degrees heat outside. Time. Lunch break. Grace, now 6 months pregnant, was visibly thin, her face gaunt, her bump the only full part. She felt sick and weak. Her pregnancy vitamins had run out over a week ago. She had slipped out of the estate while the gate man was praying. Witnesses, the male pharmacist and 2 other customers, a young woman in a bank uniform and an older man in a senator's cap. Grace found an old debit card in her purse, one from before she met Daniel. She had checked the balance on an ATM, 15,050 naira. She prayed it was correct. She handed it to the pharmacist for the 15,000 naira prenatal vitamins. Her baby needed them. The pharmacist ran the card. The POS machine beeped, a loud, cruel, echoing sound in the quiet store. Insufficient funds.
Grace's face burned. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Please, try it again. Maybe the network is a network issue." He tried. Declined. "Madam, the card is not working," he said, his voice laced with pity, which was worse than annoyance. As Grace was about to mumble an excuse about a forgotten pin, a black Range Rover pulled up outside. Jessica stepped out, wearing new Gucci sunglasses and a flowing dress that hid her flat stomach. She saw Grace. She saw the vitamins. She smiled. "Oh, Grace, shopping. Are you sure you can afford this area? You look terrible." She walked to the counter, pulled out a black, glittering, no-limit credit card, Daniel's card. "Let me get this," she said, taking the vitamins from Grace's hand, "and add 5 packs of your most expensive face cream and that new perfume. And, oh," she looked at Grace, "get her a bottle of water. She looks thirsty." The POS machine beeped. Approved. Jessica collected her bags. She looked at Grace. "You see," she said, tapping her sunglasses, "there's levels to this. Some cards work, some don't. Better find your level, oh, village girl. Maybe try a chemist in Ojueleba." Grace's hands were trembling so hard she hid them in her pockets. She couldn't speak. She just stared at the box of vitamins, her vitamins for her baby, in Jessica's designer bag. She felt the eyes of the other customers on her. She turned and walked out empty-handed, leaving the gifted bottle of water on the counter. The pharmacist looked deeply uncomfortable, busying himself with receipts. The woman in the bank uniform sighed. This Lagos. The rich stay wicked, but she didn't speak up. The older man in the senator's cap just grunted. Why is she begging? Is she not a woman? She should find her own. He was impatient to be served. Grace had to walk the 2 kilometers back to the estate, her old slippers flapping on the hot pavement. The sun beat down on her, and her head pounded. The gateman Musa saw her approaching on foot, sweating and covered in dust. He shook his head slowly and opened the small pedestrian gate for her, his eyes full of pity he could not voice. The shame of being seen by him, this kind man who used to salute her, was worse than the walk. The BQ, 8 p.m. It was raining heavily, the drops hammering on the zinc roof. Daniel knocked on her door.
The first time in weeks. His presence, his familiar scent of cologne and power made her heart leap with a stupid, desperate hope. Later, the main house dining room was filled with 30 of Daniel's business partners for an impromptu celebration dinner. Tech, Grace's laptop with her analysis, the microphone and speakers at the dinner. Witnesses, Daniel at the BQ. Then the 30 guests, plus all house staff serving them. Daniel was in trouble. He looked stressed, his hair out of place. Grace, he said, not entering, standing in the doorway, dripping wind. Where is the file for the new offshore deal, the one you were reviewing? Grace, hope again surging, fetched it. It's here, Daniel. I finished it. I found 3 clauses that are very dangerous. They could lose you the whole block. She has spent 72 hours on it, her business degree finally being used, highlighting and writing notes. She handed him the file. He took it without a word, his eyes scanning her notes. Good, he grunted, and left, his shoes muddying her small floor. 2 days later, the dinner. Grace, drawn by the noise, stood in the rain, peering through the dining room window. Daniel stood, holding a glass of champagne. I want to make an announcement, he said into the microphone. My PA, Jessica, who as you know is carrying my heir, has just saved this company 300 million naira. The guests clapped. She single-handedly reviewed the offshore contract and found loopholes even my lawyers missed. She is a genius. As a reward, I'm making her an executive director and I'm buying her a new car. Jessica stood up, blew Daniel a kiss, and held up the contract file. Grace could see her own red ink handwriting on the pages from 20 feet away. Jessica's eyes found Grace's in the darkness outside the window. She winked. Grace felt the world tilt. The rain on her face mixed with tears. It wasn't just her home. It wasn't just her man. He was letting this woman steal her work, her mind. She stumbled back to the BQ, clutching her stomach. He knows, she thought. The realization, a physical blow. He knows it's my work. He doesn't care. The 30 guests, bankers, oil men, cheered and clapped. A beauty the brains, one shouted. Bola, who was serving drinks, saw Grace's face at the window just before she turned. Her hand shook, and she almost dropped a tray of expensive wine glasses. She quickly walked to the window and pulled the heavy curtain shut, blocking Grace's view. Another witness, another betrayal. Grace sat on her thin mattress, staring at the drawn curtain. The sound of champagne corks popping and the guests laughing mocked her. He hadn't just replaced her in his bed. He had stolen her intellect, her contribution, and given the credit to her tormentor. This was a new, deeper level of erasure. She wasn't just a mistress. She wasn't just a servant. She was nothing. The BQ, mid-afternoon. Grace, now 7 months pregnant, was resting. Her body was weak. The door banged open. Daniel and Jessica stormed in. They were not alone. 2 large uniformed security guards from the estate were with them, their faces grim. The house staff, Bola, Mary, the cook, gathered at a safe distance by the BQ door, watching. Jessica's need for a final, permanent solution. She needed to get Grace out of the compound completely. A thief could not be tolerated. Where is it, Grace? Daniel bellowed, his face dark with a rage that he had never seen directed at her. Where is what? Grace sat up, frightened, her hand flying to her stomach. My 2-carat diamond earring, she shrieked, her voice a performance of hysteria. It was on my bedside table. I know you took it. You want to sell it for juju to harm my baby. What? I haven't been in the main house in weeks, Daniel. You know this. Liar, she cried. Daniel, you see how wicked she is? She's a thief. She's a witch. I told you she was trying to harm my son. Daniel, you know I wouldn't do that, Grace pleaded, looking at the man she once loved. His eyes were cold. Set her room, he ordered the guards. Grace watched as mortified as the 2 large men emptied her small drawers. They tossed her faded clothes, her old Bible, her only photo of her late mother. No, she whispered, please. Her body was trembling, a new fear arising. This was different. This was an accusation that could send her to jail. The discovery. Aha! One guard yelled. He pulled out the glittering diamond earring from under her thin pillow. Grace's blood ran cold. No, I've never seen that before. She planted it. Jessica planted it. Daniel, please, you have to believe me. Jessica burst into theatrical tears. Daniel, she's evil. I'm scared. I want her gone. I don't feel safe in this house with her. It's me or her. The maids watching from the doorway gasped. Bola's hand flew to her mouth. She knew Grace didn't do it, but she was powerless. The security guards just looked straight ahead, their faces blank, holding the evidence. Daniel looked at Grace with pure, unadulterated disgust. I have tolerated you for too long. He grabbed her arm, his fingers digging in. Get out! Daniel, please, I'm pregnant. This is your baby. You know it is. Where will I go? I don't care. You are no longer welcome here. You are a thief. And this, he said, gesturing to her stomach, is probably not even mine. How would I know? He began to drag her across the compound. The massive 12-foot iron estate gate, Lekki, 4 p.m. This was the time school buses returned and neighbors drove home from work. Technology. The estate CCTV cameras were recording. Neighbors' phones were too. Witnesses. Musa, the gatesman, the entire household staff who had followed, and neighbors. The trigger. Daniel was dragging the 7 months pregnant Grace across the interlocking stones. Get her out. Musa, open this gate, Daniel roared. Musa, the gatesman, was horrified. Oga, but madam is pregnant. They rain small. Open the gate or you are fired. Musa, his hands shaking, pressed the button. The heavy gate began to slide open. Daniel didn't wait. He pushed Grace out onto the paved road. She stumbled and fell to her hands and knees. Don't ever come back, he said, his voice flat. The gate clanged shut. A car slowed down. A black Lexus SUV, a neighbor, Mrs. Adewale, from number 5. She didn't get out. She didn't help. She wound down her window and Grace saw the red light of her phone. She was recording. Protagonist's silent response. Grace was on all fours on the hot, wet pavement. Her knees were bleeding. 7 months pregnant. Banished. The hot asphalt burnt her skin. She just stayed there, unable to move as the G-Wagon's engine revved and drove away. She was nothing. She was spectacle. Musa stood inside the gate, his head bowed. He couldn't meet her eyes. He was openly weeping. Inside the estate's WhatsApp group, Mrs. Adewale's video was already posting. You won't believe this. Chief Daniel's pregnant side chick finally thrown out. She was caught stealing. 200+ members saw it. Mocking, shocked, and SMH emojis filled the chat. Homeless. She had nothing. Not a phone, not a kobo. She had gone from mistress to servant to trash. She put a hand on her belly. I will not die, she whispered. We will not die. She stood up, her entire body aching, and started to walk. The Good Shepherd Assembly, Lekki, 1 month later. Grace was now 8 months pregnant, visibly malnourished and homeless. She had been sleeping under the Oshodi Bridge, protected by a small group of market women who took pity on her. Her dress was the same one she was thrown out in, now torn and filthy. She had come to her old church for help. It was Sunday service. The church was full, 500+ people. The AC was cold. The projector screen was on. Grace walked in during the welcome visitors' time. The ushers, recognizing her but horrified by her appearance, tried to block her. Madam, you can't. This is not. She pushed past them and walked down the central aisle, heading for the pastor. The music stopped. Everyone turned. Whispers erupted. Is that Grace? What happened to her? Look at her dress. Is she mad? On the front row, in the reserved for executive section, sat Jessica. She was wearing a massive white hat and a flowing white dress. Her pregnancy pillow obvious. She was being honored today for her 10 million naira donation to the church building fund. She stood up, took the mic from the pastor. Oh, Grace, she said, full of fake sugary pity. My dear, we have been so worried. She walked to Grace, the cameras following her. Some people fall from grace. We must pray for them. She placed a hand on Grace's dirty hair. I tried to help her, but spirits, we will pray for your deliverance. The pastor, not wanting to offend his biggest donor, took the cue. Yes, we will pray for deliverance. He motioned for security. Ushers, please, take her to the counseling room. We will attend to her after the service. Grace stood there, trapped by ushers, as Jessica looked at her with triumphant, godly pity. She was being called possessed in the house of God. Her throat was too dry to speak. She just shook her head, tears welling up. The congregation was divided. Some looked horrified. Others nodded in agreement. It must be a spiritual problem. Look at her. She looks possessed. A woman in the media booth took a screenshot from the live stream feed. Grace, dirty and pregnant, being prayed for by a radiant Jessica. She posted it in the church WhatsApp group. Baby mama tries to crash church service. So ratchet. Please pray for her deliverance. 400 members mocked her. Grace was led to a small hot back room and told to wait. She waited for 3 hours. The service ended. The pastor never came. Jessica never came. A junior usher finally gave her a bottle of water and 1,000 naira. Go and buy food. Don't come back like this. She was thrown out of God's house too. 1 month later, 3 a.m., Grace was now 9 months pregnant. Her water broke under the Oshodi bridge. The market women flagged down a keke. She got to Mushin General. She was refused a bed. No money, no bed. She gave birth on the corridor floor as 2 nurses, instead of helping, filmed her for TikTok and laughed. A primal burning instinct took over. This was the day. She knew from the church announcement that this was the day of the naming ceremony for Jessica's baby. She held her own newborn, hours old, wrapped in a hospital cloth. She was going to claim our home, she whispered to the tiny silent child. She got another keke to Lekki. She arrived at the estate gate. The music was loud. She stood there, bleeding through her dress, clutching her newborn. Musa, let me in! Jessica stormed out, her white lace dragging. She saw Grace. She saw the baby. She panicked.
Village girl. Jessica spritzes perfume in Grace's direction. Don't drip on my Gucci. Security, get this mad woman away from here. She has juju. He's Daniel's son, Grace screamed, her voice raw. His real son. Grace saw Daniel coming out, his face a mask of fury. She pushed through the gate as it opened for a guest. She stood in the middle of the party. The music stopped. 500 guests stared at her, bleeding, torn, holding a wailing, hours-old newborn. Daniel, she said, her voice loud, echoing. This is your son, your real son. Jessica screamed. She's lying. She's a witch. She brought a strange baby to curse my own son. Daniel, do something. Daniel looked at Grace, at the baby, back at the 500 guests, his business partners, his family, his reputation. He had to show control. Grace, he said, his voice dangerously low. Get out, now. Not without my home. This is your son, Daniel. I said, get out. She stood firm, clutching her child. So he slapped her. A hard, echoing slap that silenced the birds. It was so loud the microphone for the band picked it up and the sound boomed across the lawn. Grace fell to the grass, her newborn cushioned by her body. The 500 guests gasped. Phones, which had been recording secretly, were now held up openly. She lay on the wet grass, the world spinning. Her cheek was on fire. Her dignity was gone. She heard the clicks of phones. She was a spectacle. The 500 guests were frozen. No one helped. No one spoke. Uche, Jessica's PA, stood near the drinks table, his face a mask of stone. He had been secretly recording Jessica for weeks. He pressed save on his phone. He had the slap. He had the audio. He had everything. Grace stood up, her body a single column of pain. She picked up her baby. She walked away, past the silent guests, past Musa, who was weeping. She walked out of the gate. She returned to Mushin General, a ghost. She collapsed on the cot in the corridor. She looked down at her baby. He hadn't made a sound since the slap. He was cold. Baby, she whispered. Baby, please, wake up. He was limp. No, no, not you. Don't leave me. She began to pray. Her body was broken. Her heart was shattered. She had nothing left. God, she breathed, her whisper a scream in her own head. You see this? You see me? I have nothing. They have taken my home, my name, and now you are taking my son. I can't fight anymore. If you are real, if you are there, speak for me. End this, now. It was 5 a.m.
The hospital was quiet, save for the distant sound of a cough. The baby faded. Grace was on the cot in the Mushin corridor. Her baby was cold, a deep, unnatural cold. "He's not breathing," she screamed, the whisper gone, replaced by pure terror. A doctor, finally doing rounds, heard her. He was young, and his eyes were bloodshot from a 36-hour shift. He rushed over. He saw the limp, pale baby. "Madame." He snatched the baby and ran towards the emergency ward. Grace ran after him, her bare feet slapping on the linoleum. They laid the baby on a metal table under a harsh yellow light. "He's fading," he said, starting compressions with 2 fingers. "No pulse. His heart is stopping." He looked at Grace, his face grim. "I'm sorry, madame. He's gone." "No, no, not you! Don't leave me!" She shrieked, a sound of pure animal grief that echoed down the empty halls. At that exact moment, 5:02 a.m., in the Lekki mansion, Uche, Jessica's PA, was in his small BQ room. He hadn't slept. He had watched Daniel slap Grace, and something inside him, something long dormant, had broken. He remembered Grace. 2 years ago, his mother was dying at Lutz. The bill was 50,000 naira. He was 20, a student weeping in the hospital reception. Grace, who was there visiting a friend, had walked up to him. She didn't know him. "What's wrong?" she asked. He told her. She walked to the cashier, paid the 50,000 naira with her card, and walked away before he could even thank her. "God bless you," was all she said. He had gotten this job with Jessica by chance. He had watched her cruelty, his stomach twisting. He had stayed, telling himself he needed the money. But the slap, that was the end. He had been recording Jessica for weeks, ever since he heard her laughing on the phone about her fake bump. He had her voice notes. He had hacked the nursery CCTV. He had everything. Uche walked up to the main house. He found Daniel in the home office, hungover, his head in his hands, surrounded by the debris of the ruined party. "Oga," Uche said, his voice shaking with adrenaline. Daniel looked up. "Who are you? Get out." "I am Jessica's PA, but I am Grace's friend." Uche pressed play on his phone. It was the voice note. Jessica's voice, clear as day, sent to her friend. "So, I told the doctor in Benin to find me a newborn boy. I bought it for 2 million naira. That fool Daniel thinks it is his. I faked the DNA, switched the babies. His billions are mine." Daniel's blood turned to ice. What is this?" "This is from last night," Uche said. He played another. "He's so stupid. He's stressed about the party. I'm going to make him slap her. If she resists, I'll tell him to slap her again. He has to show he's on my side." It was Jessica's voice, just before the slap. She told me to," Daniel stammered, his mind collapsing. "I know," Uche said. "I also have the CCTV footage from the private hospital nursery." He showed Daniel the clip on his phone. He showed Jessica and a nurse swapping name tags on the cot, swapping the 2 million naira baby for a different one to confuse the trail. Daniel's world was collapsing. "Faked, DNA, switched. Oh my God!" "Oga," Uche said, his voice hard. "Grace's baby, the one you slapped her for, that is your son." His phone buzzed, a text from a cousin who was a nurse at Mushin General. "That woman from your boss's house is here, the one they threw out. Her baby just died." Uche showed it to Daniel. "She's at Mushin General. Her baby is dying. You better run." The miracle.
Daniel flew out of bed. He didn't put on shoes. He ran to his car in his pajamas. He drove like a madman, his G-Wagon scattering market stalls in the early morning light. He burst into the hospital screaming, "Grace! Grace Johnson!" He found her outside the emergency room, on her knees on the dirty floor, crying over the steel sheet-covered form of her baby. "He's gone, Daniel," she wept. "Our son, he's gone."
Daniel fell to his knees. No, God, no! He crawled to the door of the ER. He looked at the tiny steel body. And then the miracle. The baby Grace had delivered, the one who was pronounced dead. His eyes opened. He turned his head. He looked past the doctor, past his mother, and stared right at Chief Daniel. The baby spoke. Only the woman you slapped can carry me, the baby said, his voice clear and ancient. Only her, or I stop breathing. The young doctor fainted, collapsing against the wall. Grace stared, her tears stopping. Daniel's soul felt like it left his body. The baby closed his eyes. His breathing became shallow again, the monitor flatlining. Grace, Daniel stammered, scrambling to his feet, his mind shattered. Grace, he said you. The shift. Grace walked slowly into the room, past the fainted doctor. She looked at the man who had destroyed her. Yes, she said. She picked up her son. The baby took a deep, shuddering breath. The monitor beeped, a strong, steady pulse. He snuggled into her chest. He was warm again. The power had shifted, completely. Daniel ran outside. He fell onto the pavement right on a pile of broken bottles. He didn't feel the glass digging into his knees. He was kneeling. He was begging. Grace, please, he cried as a crowd of nurses and early morning patients gathered. Please, come to the car, the baby, whatever he wants, whatever you want, please. I know everything. I have the proof. She lied. Grace stood on the ramp, holding her miracle child, the morning sun rising behind her. The plan. She looked down at the kneeling billionaire. Her voice was cold. You do anything. Anything, Grace, anything. Call the police, call the EFCC, and call Dr. Ibe, your DNA specialist. Tell them all to meet you at the shop right in Lekki, now. Daniel, bleeding from his knees, pulled out his phone. Yes, anything. And Daniel, as he punched in the number, Grace said, We are going live on Instagram. The world watched you disgrace me. They will watch you restore me. The Lekki ShopRite entrance, 9 a.m. It was pure chaos. Uche had texted the blogs. Chief Daniel, live DNA test. ShopRite Lekki, the real story. Linda Ikeji's blog, Instablog, Tunde Ednot, they all had people there. A crowd of hundreds had gathered. 2 police vans were parked at the entrance. A EFCC boss was there. Dr. Ibe, the DNA specialist, had arrived with his mobile lab, looking terrified. Jessica was dragged there by Daniel's security. She was still in her torn, perfume-stained white lace dress from the party. Her makeup from yesterday was smeared across her face. Daniel, baby, it's a lie. Uche is lying, she screamed, trying to run to him. Then Grace arrived. She came with Daniel in his G-Wagon. The crowd parted. She stepped out, still in her torn hospital gown, barefoot. She was holding her baby. The contrast was electric. The cameras went wild. This is the test, Grace said to Daniel, loud enough for the cameras to hear. Daniel, his face pale, his suit stained, his knees bandaged, nodded. Dr. Ibe, shaking, stepped forward. He took the swab from Daniel's mouth. The camera zoomed in. He took the swab from the baby's mouth, who was wide awake and calm in Grace's arms. It will take 20 minutes, he stammered, rushing to his van. The crowd was tense. Jessica was still screaming. This is illegal. You can't test our baby. This is harassment. That's not your baby, a voice said. Uche stepped forward. He was holding a portable Bluetooth speaker. You all want to know the truth, he shouted to the crowd. Let's hear it from the queen herself. He pressed play. Jessica's voice, her clear, sharp Instagram voice, blasted through the ShopRite parking lot. I bought it for 2 million naira. That fool Daniel thinks it's his. I faked DNA, switched babies. His billions are mine. The crowd gasped. Jessica's face went white. That's AI. It's a deep fake. He's lying. Ute, press play again. If she resists, I'll tell him to slap her again. The crowd turned on Jessica. Which? Child trafficker. You made him slap her. Ute held up his phone. And here is the CCTV footage of her and the nurse switching the babies at the hospital. He had dropped the file to the bloggers. As the crowd surged, the men from the EFCC stepped forward.
Mrs. Jessica Michael once said, "You are under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, and child trafficking." They put her in handcuffs. At that exact moment, Daniel's phone pinged, a bank alert.
account frozen. The EFCC, as part of the conspiracy, had frozen all his and Jessica's joint accounts. The crowd fumed. Jessica, the Instagram queen who flaunted designer bags and new iPhones, was being handcuffed at the ShopRite entrance. The ultimate mirror punishment. "No!" she screamed. "Daniel, do something! Daniel, it was you! You wanted a son! I did it for you!" The door of the DNA van opened. Dr. Ibe came out holding a paper. He looked terrified and amazed. He spoke into the nearest camera. It is a 99.9999% match. This child," he pointed to the baby in Grace's arms, "is the son and undisputed heir of Chief Daniel." The crowd cheered. Grace looked at Daniel. Her first test was over. Now the final one. "My name," she said. Daniel understood. He took the microphone from a blogger. His voice shook. "This is Grace Johnson," he announced, his voice breaking. "She is the mother of my son. She is my wife, the one I slapped, and the one I will spend the rest of my life begging for forgiveness." He knelt in front of ShopRite, in front of the world, in front of the rolling Instagram live cameras. And for the first time, Grace looked at him, and she nodded. The apologies came first, like a flood. The church WhatsApp group, which had mocked her, was now filled with posts. "We are so sorry, Grace. We judged without knowing. Please forgive us." The pastor was suspended by the church board. The 2 nurses who filmed her in the corridor were fired and their nursing licenses were revoked. They sent Grace a 3-page letter begging her forgiveness. The neighbors who recorded her, led by Mrs. Adewale, sent gifts, hampers, and cows. She forgave them all. "When you are in pain," she said later, "you don't have space for more hate. My fight was over." Grace was not in Lekki. She had refused to go back to that house of pain. Uche, who Daniel had hired as his new head of operations with a massive raise and a car, had actioned Grace's request perfectly. A bank alert for 5 million naira had entered Grace's new private bank account. It was not from Daniel, it was from Uche. A transfer from a trust Daniel had set up for her. Back pay, Uche had called it, for the contract you reviewed. Uche had given her the keys to a clean, quiet, and beautifully furnished 3-bedroom flat in Surulere. It was hers, the deed was in her name. An email confirmed her full scholarship funded by an anonymous foundation. She was studying for her master's in business with a minor in midwifery. She wanted to open clinics for women like her who had nowhere to go. A brand new Toyota Corolla was parked outside, paid in full. It was practical, safe, and hers. Her son, David, was laughing in an imported baby carrier. He had never spoken again, but his eyes, everyone said, looked like he knew everything. She was not a billionaire. She was just safe. She was free. She was in control. She posted her first selfie in a year. Her face was clear. Her hair was braided simply. She wore no makeup. The caption was short. No filter, no fear. The lessons. Looking back, Grace understood. The pain had a purpose, she told Uche over coffee, as she signed papers for her new clinic. If I had not been pushed to the dirty floor of that corridor, my son would not have been born in that place. And if he was not born in that place, the miracle would not have happened. She learnt that God's delays are not denials. Her prayer on the cot at rock bottom was the one that was heard. She learnt that you cannot build a life on someone else's tears. Jessica's mansion, built on lies, was auctioned by the bank. She was serving 15 years for child trafficking. She learned that witness silence is a weapon. The nurses, the maids, the neighbors, their silence had been a second slap. But Uche's seeing, his recording, that was a weapon for justice. And she learned that the truth, no matter how deep you bury it, will always find a way to breathe. As for Daniel, he was serving his own punishment. He saw his son every weekend. He provided everything. But he was not in her home. He was in therapy. He was walking slowly to earn back the right to be called her husband. He was still on his knees. The call to action. This story is real. It is happening in different ways, in different homes right now. To everyone who is suffering in silence, your rock bottom is not the end. It is the place where miracles are born. Hold on, your helper is on the way. To everyone who is watching and staying silent, your phone can be used to help or to harm. Don't just record the suffering, stop it. Be the Uche in someone's story. And to those who are building their lives on someone else's pain, the bill always comes due. The microphone will turn on. The voice note will play. God sees everything and He settles all accounts. Share this story. Someone needs to hear it today.